Good afternoon. I am Deja Huffman, a sophomore at the university, majoring in criminal justice and minoring in computer science. And it is my pleasure to serve as Mistress of Ceremony. Consultants, I hope you have enjoyed your participation in the YMTF this year. You have shared your wisdom through presentations that supported our theme, making major moves, putting the pieces together. Students, you have had numerous opportunities these past few days to interact with professionals from various backgrounds, and hopefully you've learned from the experience that was shared. Now, as we position ourselves to close out another great YMTF experience, the program will proceed as printed, beginning with a question and answer by Felicia Kennedy.
Thank you, Ms. Huffman. And it's kind of hard for me to just stand here, so I'm going to try. But we've certainly had a great Youth Motivational Task Force program, and we really appreciate our speaker for the words of wisdom that she gave us today. So let's give her another rousing applause.
And my question to you is, what is the best piece of advice you could give another young Black woman as yourself who wants to start up her own production company possibly and or fashion line, during the entertainment industry within like the next 5 years or so, next decade?
The question was that you may want or you have a desire to start your own entertainment company or production company in the next 5 to 10 years.
Yes.
So I'll say this. First, entrepreneurship is everything, but it's a lot of hard work. And so sometimes I think that we don't realize that being an entrepreneur and working for yourself is actually harder than working for someone else. So that's one. There's no end time. There's no budget. There's nothing. You're creating it normally from the start. But the first thing I'll say is get some experience. And I think a lot of us want to skip that step, where we want to go straight into entrepreneurship. And we're seeing a lot of people do it straight out of college, and they do reasonably well. But what you want to have is staying power and longevity. And so I would argue that if you graduate from college and pursue your entrepreneurial dreams after getting at least 3 to 5 years of experience, which still fits in your timeline, but at least 3 to 5 years of experience under your belt, you'll at least have a solid foundation of professional hands-on experience. So you want to understand, after you leave here, the application of everything that you learned, right? So it's one thing to hear it, to study it, to live it and breathe it, but it's another thing to actually immerse yourself in the practice of that thing. And so I would encourage you to immerse yourself in the practice of that thing. Now, that's hard to do, because when you graduate from college, you normally land an entry-level position, which means that you are doing the grunt work, and it's hard to zoom out and study the business, which is what you're going to need as an entrepreneur. So you're going to have to, in my opinion, really figure out, be intentional about studying the business as you're running to get coffee, as you're filing papers, as you're a production assistant going to schedule someone's next appearance on whatever it is, or whatever aspect of production it is, because you're going to get consumed. It's going to take you over. Your entire day will be filled with stuff. And you're going to have to zoom out and carve out the time and space, even if it's after hours, even if it's on the weekends, to learn the business. So that's one. Two is seek in that organization not only mentors, but allies. Big. Some call them sponsors. And so that means that, it's one thing to have a mentor that you may call every month and they give you advice. Okay, fine. It's good advice. But what you want is a sponsor. That when it comes time for you to become that entrepreneur and start your business, that person can vouch for you. When you go in and do your angel investment rounds, where you're going around looking for seed money to start your business, or you're looking for grant money from the government to start your business, or whatever you plan to do, you're going to see somebody credible that can vouch for you and say, you know what? I worked with this person. She's a woman of her word. She knows her stuff, and she's ready to take that next step. Because if not, there's no one left to really validate what you say you can do as an entrepreneur. So I would look for sponsorship along the way too.
So let's take a question from this side of the room. In the back, real loud, name, major, and question.
All right, my name is Gary Jones from Kansas City, Missouri, major in political science. And my question is, currently I work for Jefferson County, and my question is, with election season coming up down here, how do you handle that transition of power from one judge or from one boss to another judge to another boss? How do you deal with that?
That's hard, Gary. So I'll give you my real world example. So I served in the Obama administration from 2009 to 2011. And I came in as a presidential appointee. What that means, Gary, you probably know as a poli-sci major, but for those who don't, it means that in the federal government, and I think the state government is like this too, there are some employees that no matter who is in office, they have a job. They have a guaranteed job unless they get fired. But no matter if it's President Trump or President Obama or whoever your governor is, Democrat or Republican or independent, no matter who is in office, you have a stable job. And there are others who are political appointees like I was, which meant that if President Obama was no longer in office, guess what? I didn't have a job. So there are benefits to being an appointee, right? You work for the man or the woman, and you know the inside game of what's happening, and you normally have the higher profile roles. Your positions normally pay pretty well, but you don't have the longevity. And so for me, when we saw the transition of power happen in Washington, it was devastating to say the least. But I'll say this. One is, especially as a poli-sci major or anyone who wants to work in politics, who in here does? Okay, I see a couple, like 2 or 3 hands. You've got to know that this is what comes with the business. So it's going to be hard not to get emotionally attached, especially for me serving in a black president's administration. It was like, oh my God, we worked so hard. Like, I can't believe everything that we did for 8 years is just being erased, rolled back. But I encourage you to kind of mature into knowing whatever business it is that you're going to go into. Because at the end of the day, change happens. Things evolve, whether we like them or not. And you can't become too married to the work that you did, although it was the right thing to do. And so for me, I'll say when you see transition of power happening, it's one, becoming seasoned and understanding that this is what happens. But then 2, taking the power back into your hands, especially at the local and state level. So I'm going to argue that we're about to see, like, folks are going to come out that have never voted before because they feel now a responsibility to do something different, right? And so I believe the same thing happened with the transition from President Obama to Donald Trump. There were people who felt like they were getting left down, left behind, and they became more vocal, more adamant, more active at the voting polls. And so I think that that's going to happen again. And that's just the nature of the work that we do. But it can be when you're a voter and you don't work in politics like most of us in this room, it's like it makes you want to give up. And so often as young people, it makes us say our vote doesn't really matter. Because at the end of the day, Washington's going to do what Washington's going to do. Or your local government's going to do what your local government's going to do. And I challenge you to think differently about that. Because the power really is in your hands. And so when you call your electeds, when you sign petitions, when you show up at their offices, one of my best friends, Tamika Mallory, who was one of the organizers of the Women's March, she got arrested yesterday on Capitol Hill. Literally got arrested. She's like 90 pounds soaking wet. Because she believed in her cause that much. And I'm not suggesting that you do that. What I am saying is that you do have power, and especially collective power when you organize and mobilize together.
Question from the center of the room. Anybody? Okay.
How you doing?
Hello.
My name is Jaleesa J. Brown. I am currently a junior at the university, majoring in English and I'm a teacher, and I am from the south side of Chicago.
Okay.
Fun fact. One, I want to say your outfit is really cute. I love your shoes.
Thank you. Gucci. Thank you.
But my question is, as a woman, black woman, you are also a mother, a wife, a business person. How do you handle all of that physically, mentally, and emotionally, and with on top of everyone's expectations of a mother and a wife and a businesswoman?
It is hard, you guys. Like, I can't even sugarcoat it. I have a 4-month-old. He just turned 4 months old, like last week. And then I have a 5-year. Thank you. Trying to get this last 10 pounds off. But I have a 4-month-old and I have a 5-year-old. And they're boys. My black boy Joy. And they are wild. Well, my 5-year-old's wild. He just started kindergarten. We just moved from New York to California 2 weeks ago because I have this new position and I just got promoted. And to your point, I'm a wife. It's hard. And there's no easy answer. What I'll say is that, in my humble opinion, balance is not real. So if you're seeking balance, if you're seeking like this, like for the perfectionists in the room, I just talked to someone about this. If you're trying to find the perfect way and the perfect time to do things, it does not exist. What I will say is, and I like to share, especially with young women, like the truth. In my 20s, I was single and wild, and I wouldn't have it any other way. I lived. I enjoyed my life. I worked really hard. I put myself first, unapologetically. If I wanted to buy a shoe, I bought a shoe and didn't have to ask anybody. If I wanted to spend every dime of my paycheck, even though I shouldn't have, and when work check to check, I could because I didn't have a partner that I had to bounce those things by. And there's something liberating about finding your own space, right? Finding your own space in this world. And then once you feel whole and whatever it is that you want to do, then you take your whole self and match it with his or her whole self. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, oh well. And so I did that in my 20s. And at 30, give you the quick story. At 32, I met my husband. At 33, we got married. At 34, we had our first child. And at 39, we just had our second child, and I just turned 40. That's a quick timeline. And I'll say this, even at my age, it's still hard. And so I'll just leave you with balance isn't real. Thank you. But what you've got to do is find your sanity in the madness. So whatever it takes for you to take care of you first, even when you get married one day and even when you have kids, take care of you first, then you can be good for everyone else in your family. So that's one. And then the last thing I'll say is don't put your career on the back burner. You can't. Like, your 20s is when you learn. Your 30s is when you make money. Your 40s is when you really start, like, get sexy at 40. Because now you got a little money. What? You can take a little trip and not have to share a room with your friends. You don't need a roommate anymore. You might buy a house. Like, that's when it gets sexy. So don't fast forward and blow through your 20s. Like, take those lumps. 30s, make that money. And then 40s, I'm excited about 40. I was really scared a couple months ago. But now that I'm here at 40, I'm like, oh, I'm about to live my best life. So that's what I want, hopefully, for you, if that's what you want for yourself. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Janicia Laws. I am from Belleville, Illinois. I'm a political science major.
Lots of poli-sci majors.
Yes. And I really enjoyed your presentation today. I think you're just energetic and very relatable.
Thank you.
So my question to you is, what are some resources or materials that you listen to or read just for your professional development or your own personal development?
So I'm not a big reader. I'm just gonna be honest. Sorry to the professors in the room. I don't have time. When I do have time, I just like to chill. But I am a podcast person. Any podcasters? Okay, so that's how I get my knowledge, right? So a couple of podcasts I'm into right now are Angela Rye's. You know who Angela Rye is, CNN? Yes, it's one of my best friends. And she is an attorney, CNN analyst, super woke sister who has a great podcast. So Angela Rye's podcast is one that I go to. And I have one, I should mention that, called Off the Record. It's on iTunes that I talk just like I talked today on the podcast. It's super unfiltered career advice. But I would just say the one book, though, and because I'm not a big avid reader the way I should be, the one book that did get me through is called The Four Agreements. by Miguel Ruiz. I literally read it in 48 hours, super small, and it changed my life. And that book challenges you to deprogram yourself from everything that I just talked about. So thinking that by 30 you have to have a $100,000 salary, thinking that by 30 you have to have a husband and 2 kids and a dog and a white picket fence, like all of those things that you think you're supposed to have, it kind of challenges you to strip those things, those ideals, and just work within what's right for you. And so that was big for me, because when you don't hit some of the goals that you set out when you think you should, it can become easy to get discouraged and give up. And so that helped me get through those tough times when I thought I was like behind. Oh my God, I can't believe my friends just bought a house. Just bought my first house this year. It's February. This year, first house at 40. So that gives you an idea of how, you think one thing. I thought I would do it at 25. So you think one thing, and it just, for me, the book 4 Agreements stripped all of that so I could figure out what I can, build for myself on the timeline I wanted.
So my first question is, where do I begin in trying to learn how to navigate through the music and entertainment industry?
Okay. Give me a second one. I'll try to weave them together, if they're somewhat related.
What's the second one?
Yeah.
You said you had 2.
My second question is, given my current situation, like I came here on late registration, couldn't do any work study, was all going as soon as I asked. Internship was out the question. What is my best move? Do I just wait it out until I get some opportunities, or really where do I go from here?
And where do you ask it? Late registration for class or for?
For classes and just most of the stuff on campus. Like I couldn't get into all the classes that I wanted to this year because of the late registration. And there was a bunch of snow days too, so the school was closed.
Got it. Okay. All right. So I'll start with the first. So who in here wants to work in the entertainment industry? I know I asked in the first session. Okay. So I see about 4 people. Who are mass comm majors or want to be? Okay. So about 4, but a different 4, a little bit. Okay. Got it. So the first thing is, hear me when I say this. I think everyone in this room needs your degree. So that is the foundation that I will stand what I'm about to say next time to the professors, everybody in the room. First, get your degree. Like, no one can take it from you. Everything your parents and your grandparents and your teachers say is true. Like, get the degree. However, don't let this be your excuse, what I'm about to say. However, I have never once in my entire life been asked to prove that I've graduated from college. Real talk. I had top secret security clearance in the White House. Okay? Never been asked to prove that I have a college education. I put it on my resume, I say it in my interview, and they believe it for face value. I'm sure they might, talk to people, but I've never had to actually physically prove it. I say that to say, pour into your college education, right? Pour into it. Learn everything that you can. Be a sponge. And what you give to it, you're going to get out of it. Are you with me? What you give to your university, you are going to get out of it, right? This is not a one-way relationship. You go to class, you get your degree, you think you're going to get a job. Doesn't always work out that way. So you've got to understand that although you're a student, even within the safe walls of your academic institution, this is a two-way relationship. Treat it like a partnership, right? You fail the school, guess what? You fail yourself in the process. So that's 1. 2, you're going to feel sometimes like your school failed you. Come on now, students. We've all had those moments where you feel like your school failed you. I can't believe I'm giving all this to school. I'm active on campus. I show up on time. I do my work. I don't understand why I'm not getting the career support that I need. I don't understand why I'm not getting the internships I need that so-and-so just got. And what I'll say to that is, it's still not on the school. It's on you. And I say that as a person who doesn't work on a college campus. So I'm unbiased here. But I can honestly say that Clark Atlanta University, for me, was just the training ground But I had to go get what I needed out of the school, and I had to get off campus, even as a freshman, to get what I needed for the entertainment industry career that I wanted. So, late registration, so what? Didn't get enrolled in some classes this semester, so what? Get it next semester. But in the meantime, my humble recommendation to you is to get what you need elsewhere. Or be creative and think about within this campus where you can pull resources that you need that are outside of the curriculum, but can still feed your goals along the way. Is everybody with me here? Because what no one, and brother, I say this to you, like hear me when I say this is no shade at all. And I mean that. If you want to talk after, we can. Because I want you to hear what I'm saying right now. At the end of the day, nobody cares when we give excuses or reasons. It might not even be an excuse. Everything that you just said, I 100% believe. I know that happened. And it still doesn't matter to the people that can change what the trajectory you're on, right? So go get yours by any means necessary. And I can guarantee you that at the end of the day, when you standing here at the podium, and I'm sitting in the audience listening to you, that's going to be the story that you tell. That's going to be your testimony. Okay, I'm going to stop rambling. You're welcome. Sweater.
How you doing?
Hello.
My name is Prentice Rushton Jr.
Prentice?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Who are your parents?
I'm a junior here at the university. My major is Industrial Technology Management and Applied Engineering.
Okay.
This is an school. I'm also from the south side of Chicago, and I just want to know what were some of your short-term goals and long-term goals that you set for yourself while in college?
I had like really low goals, and I didn't know it at the time though. So I'll say this, I was like painfully shy and insecure as a high school student, like really shy. Like I would have never been able to stand here like I am right now. And even as a college student, as I started working in the entertainment industry, I was still painfully shy. I was just like a workhorse. I was just the worker bee. So I would work, do what I had to do quietly. Like that was my thing. And my goal in high school and my goal in college was I want to run an entertainment company one day. Sounded to me at the time like a huge goal. Like me, run an entertainment company one day. So that in my mind in high school was, okay, I want to run an entertainment company one day and then retire after that and start a nonprofit dedicated to young girls. Like that was literally my dream. I didn't know how I was going to get there, what I was going to do. And I was like, and I guess I'll start at the bottom and work my way up of that company. I hit that goal by the age of 30. I thought this would be like the 55-year-old goal. And I hit it at 30. And then I realized that because of my own insecurities, I like didn't dream big enough. And so I had to like reimagine my dreams. And so that was my dream there, and I hit it with full intensity though. Like you heard me speak before about how all 4 years of college I worked full time. You heard me speak about like dropping out of law school, going to New York City, sleeping on a friend's couch for almost a year before I landed the internships. But then in that 7-year span after I got my foot in the door, I hit the goal by 30. All of that said, I'm still a dreamer. So like as dope as I feel like my role is right now, like I want to be a CEO of a Fortune 500 company. Like I'm clear on my goal. And I want you to get clear. And it doesn't mean that today you have to have it all figured out. I think it was a gift for me, as young as I was, to know kind of what I wanted to do, because it's really hard sometimes, like figure out your passion. For me, I always say, okay, what is the thing that I would do if money were no option? Like if I didn't have to worry about how my bills were going to be paid, what would be the thing? And the thing was music. And so now the thing for me is I want to run a company one day, period. I want to be the Black Sheryl Sandberg. If you don't know who Sheryl Sandberg is, Google it. Please write that name down just to understand like how clear I am about what I want. So if I get halfway there, I'm all right. So I encourage you to think big. Don't stop thinking and dreaming. When you hit those goals, dream new goals, and at the end of the day, I can guarantee you, if you shoot, like if you overshoot, if you shoot your shot, who says that? Come on, y'all, help me out. Okay, everybody says it. If you shoot your shot, I can guarantee you that if you even just fall under that, you're gonna be all right, financially, spiritually, mentally, and soul fulfilled.
Hi, how you doing? My name is Anya Porter. I am a graduating senior here at the university, majoring in psychology from Detroit, Michigan. So in the fine arts auditorium, you said something along the lines of get the real power. Power doesn't follow fame. Fame follows power. So I was wondering, could you elaborate a little bit more on that, as well as could you give us some tips as students and young adults on how we can start accumulating that power now, and how we can basically use that to our advantage?
Yes. Okay, I'll give you some real life examples. Say, for example, let me think of something good. A good, easy to communicate thing. Okay, so in the position I'm in now, I'm responsible again for global women and global Black community engagement. So that means that from a resource standpoint, I have access to resources around education, around our community work, and a lot of different things. Before this role, I worked in government, I worked in politics, I worked in entertainment, and I worked for nonprofits, where I was always the one asking for money. So when I worked for Obama, it looked sexy. Oh, I work for President Obama. Here's my business card. I could go to the BET Awards and sit in the 5th row. Like, I could go to Essence Festival and get all access. You know, it looks sexy. I literally, this is a funny quick story. I go to BET Awards one time. Some reason security didn't have my name on the list. Like, it was some error. And so literally, it's like all these big security guards and all these celebrities back there. I'm telling you the quick story so y'all can get a picture. And literally, I'm standing there and I'm like, what do you mean Valeisha Butterfield's not on the list? And I give these big 6'6" security guards my business card, and they like, dang, Obama, go ahead, sister. Like, real talk that happened. And I was like, second row, like, hey, y'all. Probably not even supposed to be there. But that is perceived power. You with me? My bank account probably had about $350 in it. Literally. I wasn't a priority, apparently enough to be on the list, even though it was an error, but there was an error for a reason. And I walked through the door because of all the things, right, that I could show. But now on the other side, so let me back up. So in those roles, I'm the one on the other side of these corporations saying, hey, would you give a donation? Oh, we're fundraising for this. Oh, I feel like I was a Girl Scout selling cookies. Asking for money, right? It's very humbling to ask for money. Now on the other side, I'm the one making the decision on where the check goes. With me? And so I may still go to BET Awards, and it's a different setup now. I ain't want to shut the cameras down. But you know what I'm saying, though? It's a different positioning now, right? So that's the difference. And not everyone has to work for a big corporation. Not everyone has to be the one making the decisions. I'm not saying that's what you have to do. What I am saying is that whatever you do, you want to set yourself up so that you are well positioned. And that means that no matter what you do, you are in a position of real power. So you know where your next check is coming from. You know where your next deal is going to be made. And if you don't, you can figure it out. Because you never want to be this person. Sometimes we got to start there, but don't finish there. Put your hand out. You want to be the one writing the check. And so I hope that was helpful with a little funny story in the middle.
Hi, I'm Sarah Wright. I'm a sophomore working in a major in finance, and I'm from Stratford, Connecticut. So when we were in there, you were talking a lot about all these things that you did to get to where you are today. But to you, what was the biggest step for you to get to where you are today? What was the biggest move that you made in your life?
It's going to be good, I hope, for this room. and I meant to say this earlier, so I'm glad you asked that question. As an HBCU graduate, you are going to go in rooms sometimes that can be very intimidating if you allow them to be. So at my company now, even when I worked on the Obama campaign and in his administration, there were people with Ivy League degrees from Harvard, Stanford, Yale, you name it. And they talk that Ivy League talk with confidence, with bravado. They're gonna challenge every idea. Don't let them find out you went to, not only didn't graduate from an Ivy League, but let them find out you went to an HBCU. They're gonna challenge everything you say in that room on purpose. This is facts. And so that for me in the beginning was very intimidating. You know, to be in a room where, you know, you're constantly, it feels like a pressure cooker. Like you're just constantly being challenged. Every idea is being met with a counter of why not. Everything that you say is being picked apart. One, because I'm a woman. One, because I'm black. Then you want to add HBCU? I became a target sometimes, and this is not at all me being paranoid. These are like data-proven facts. Like I could give you statistics on this from my journey and for many journeys. And so what I found was, Sarah, that I want you to get to a point earlier than I did where you're able to harness this experience. One, like harness it. Like take everything you can out of this and then leverage it for what you want to do. And so when I made that switch, and I told a young lady right before this, my pitch became, you know, the black consumer market, for example. And every pitch will be different for everyone for what you want to do. But if you look at black consumer numbers, we spend $1 trillion a year annually. If you look at black entrepreneurship, we have billions in entrepreneurship each year, right? If you look at the voting power of black people, particularly black women, it is proven that we elect presidents in this country because of our voting power. And I ran through all these statistics and I say, and it is because of my unique value as an HBCU graduate that I am able to provide your company with an authentic connection to the community that you need to engage for your bottom line. It's not only the right thing to do, but engaging the black consumer is good for business. So if you want to hire an Ivy League educated person, no matter the race, no matter the gender, to do this work, go ahead. But what I can tell you is what they won't be able to do is to go on these college campuses and have a real genuine connection with the community and then come back in and leverage it for your bottom line. Booyah! And it literally like opened up a whole new world for me. So harness this experience, get your talking points together because you're gonna need like a 2-minute pitch on why you, for any room that you're in. And it's different for everyone. But find your unique pitch and then use it to your advantage. And I can guarantee you, you stop operating from a deficit and you start operating from like a space of the value you add to whatever it is that you want to do. Is that helpful? Okay.
Okay, gentleman right here, I think you had your hand up, and the gentleman right here who had his hand up for a long time. Yes.
That was the last one.
How you doing, man?
Hello.
My name is Jonathan Clinton. I'm a senior year majoring in industrial technology management and applied engineering. With you pushing for diversity and opportunities, what can we do as young black men and women and possible Google candidates to show that you
I see.
made the right choice and believing in us?
Oh.
Right.
I mean, snap, snap, snap. Okay, brother, you got this thing figured out, first of all, because that's the thing, right? Like, it's one thing to be in a position to inspire and to recruit, right? Like, I'm not an actual recruiter, but it's my job to help our teams find the talent, right? So that's one thing. It's another thing to be able to show the true magic of our Black engineers, right? Like, I feel like that's my job, right? To be able to say to companies like that, not only are you missing the boat by not having us represented in the company, here's the beautiful talent pool of ready to hire engineers and computer science majors who are ready to work for this company, right? So like, I always challenge the myth or the notion that like we only need to focus on early childhood education for computer science. We do, and we are. We also need to work on our campus programs too, to make sure that we are making sure that we are ripe and ready for the current talent as well. And I think that sometimes those conversations get lost. It's like, okay, let's focus on 8th graders, and we should, but also I want to focus on people like you, right, who are ready at the next, like ready for the next stage. And so to answer your question is, one, who is a CS major in the room? Okay, and what is your major again? Because I'm not a techie, so I don't know all the language. Industrial tech. Got it. Okay. So what I ask you to do is, one, soak up all the knowledge and education that you can. 2, apply for these internships. Everyone says to me, how did you get hired at Google? I applied. I really did. I didn't know anybody. So that's one, apply. I can't tell you how many emails I get. It's like, what do I do? I'm like, did you apply online yet? No. So apply. And then 3, work your network, right? So working your network means, 1, coming to sessions like this. It also means 2, speaking with your university about what are we doing with Google? Do we have a partnership with Google? If not, can we create a partnership with Google and at least provide some type of opportunity for our students to have exposure and access to those positions, right? So challenge your faculty. I shouldn't say challenge. Ask your faculty, those questions, because I think that there's an opportunity within that to find, a real space for that type of opportunity to happen. But then also go get yours. So like what I always say, lift as you climb. So it's part like asking your faculty, well, what are you guys doing with the big tech companies? Is there something I can help the faculty with in creating that type of relationship? So that's one, like taking care of your people. And then it's 2, applying for yourself and doing what you need to do by any means necessary to get yourself in the door. So no matter if it comes through your faculty, or if it comes through you getting yourself in the door as an applicant, then you can lift as you climb and say, I'm at Google now. Let me call back to my school and see if that partnership ever happened. If not, maybe I can be the conduit and the bridge to make it happen. Does that make sense? Okay.
One more, last one. The president of our NESB chapter, I think. Okay.
A whole introduction.
That's okay, I'm advocating right now.
Good afternoon. My name is Bowie. I'm a junior here at the University majoring in Industrial Technology Management with Applied Engineering. I am the current acting president of our NESB chapter. And as the current president, I've been finding myself struggling at times as the new leader. And I was wondering if you could give me some advice on how to keep production going, keeping things doing fresh while just keeping everyone motivated and just how to push forward.
So give me your top 2 struggles. Sounds like morale, motivation, maybe. No?
Not really morale, motivation, just new ideas, not keeping things are starting to feel repetitive.
Got it, okay. And what's the second?
It will probably be communication, just trying to portray what I want to say and just to connect with everyone.
Funny that you say that, because what I was going to suggest to you is the second, the latter, without even knowing that you were self-aware. So one is, I feel like, this is my assessment after speaking to you for the last 10 seconds, that you are smart, you are capable, and you are a leader in this capacity for a reason. You got to own that. Like, you're there in here for a reason. And so 1, don't doubt yourself in this capacity and in this role. So that's 1. 2, most folks, like, we are inspired by action, right? And so yes, communication is key, right? So you want to make sure that you're not only having big conversations in big meeting settings, but you're having one-on-one conversations, because that's how you mobilize, right? It sounds trite and simple, but like even at Google, we have all these cafeterias and we have all these free food, amazing programs, but it's really so there could be connections made even amongst employees over those meals where big ideas happen, like Gmail, literally. Like big ideas happen and like spark in those one-to-one interactions, and then those seeds turn into like full bloom, right? So work on not only how you present and communicate in big settings like this, but also really focus, if you haven't already, or focus more on like building your one-to-one interpersonal connections and relationships, because then when you go into these big settings, you have allies in the room. Then when you propose a new idea before NSBE, if you recommend a new strategy, if you innovate and think of a creative way for you guys to become more fresh and move things forward, you have allies in the room that have spent that one-on-one time with you. You can say, you know what, and I +1 that idea. I agree with that approach, because one, they have the connection with you, and two, they bought into that plan on an individual level before you present it to the broader group. So that's something that has like literally always worked for me. Like it's called the meeting before the meeting, right? The meeting before the meeting. So then you know already when you are in the room who's for you and who's not. Okay, so that's one key. And then the last thing I'll say is, if you guys aren't innovating, who in here is a part of NSBE? If you guys are not innovating and thinking of ideas, you are failing the organization and you are failing yourself. Like, don't be old school like us. Seriously, this is the opportunity and time for you guys to think moonshot ideas. Big ideas, things that feel so far out of reach that if you shoot for the moon, it sounds corny, and land in the stars, like you're moving the work forward, right? So think big, but think strategically as you think big. So once you like throw out the biggest idea in the world, then you come back to earth and you say, okay, now that we know where we want to go, let's map out the smaller incremental steps to get us closer there, if that makes sense. But he can't do it alone, you guys. So don't fail him as your new leader either. Like, you've got to be the bench and the village to lift him up too. And together, you guys move the work forward. It can't solely rest on his shoulders. You're welcome. Thank you. Okay, so I'm leaving to go to the airport back to my 4-month-old. But if you want to keep in touch, 1, work with your university. 2, hit me up on LinkedIn, IG, Twitter. It's all my first name because I have a one-of-a-kind name because my parents were really, it's a long story, the 80s. And then just like, let's stay connected. Seriously. And then I'll do my part to get more of us in those rooms. Okay? Okay. Thank you.